Hi everyone, and welcome to the lecture for Modern. I'm not sure if you remember the case of the county clerk, Kim Davis, but she refused to sign marriage licenses for same-sex couples. This caused her stress that she was asked to do this. So we can learn what our moral compass is, if we can learn we feel is ethical, what's important to us, then we can kind of have a little preview into what is going to cause us stress, and then we can kind of understand it and then come up with some mechanisms for being able to manage it. So how do you determine your ethical style? Your text provides a lot of examples on how to identify your ethical style. In my opinion, one of the easiest ways is to look at the unified ethic. And again, we talk about the 4 different perspectives. So you want to ask yourself, do you feel you're rule oriented or you're principle oriented? Does it matter what is the rule? What is the principle? Is this the right thing to do? And as you're working through the scenarios in your textbook, you can get a really good idea of what you feel is important to you. Do you feel that, it really matters, am I doing the greatest good for the greatest number of people? So if I have to bend the rules a little bit, that's okay, as long as I'm doing the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Or do you rely on your intuition? Do you feel like, how do I feel about this? Do I feel good? Do I feel like I'm doing the right thing? And then do I think that what I'm doing reflects good character? When you get an idea of really what drives you and how you make decisions and what makes you feel good about your decisions, again, then you can understand what is going to cause you stress. So along with managing stress, we want to try to look at the types of stressors that you're going to encounter in your job. So in this discussion forum and for this module, I want everyone to offer stresses that come with the different jobs. We have so many students in this class, we can learn from each other. And the whole goal is we can learn what some possible stressors are so that they're not going to catch you off guard. I want you to be prepared as you go into these fields. I want us to be able to learn from each other, learn different mechanisms that to help deal with stress. Like I said before, there isn't a one size fits all for everyone. What works for me is not going to work for every single person in this class, but we can learn from each other. Maybe I tried one thing and it didn't work, but somebody else tried something and it worked, so I'll give that a shot next time. So we want to have an idea of what the different stressors are, and in addition to obviously moral stress, but what are all the other stressors in the jobs? And then come up with some tips for managing these different kinds of stresses. And that's going to make our life a lot easier. So for managing stress, again, we want to identify strategies that will work for you. So there's a lot of different tips out there, and I entered a lot of links that will give you some ideas on different tools. So please take a look through all of those. Again, it's just some of those you're going to read and you're going to say, that is not ever going to work for me. But some are going to jump out and say, something that really is an option. So here I just want to highlight some common trends that I found that really have woven through all these different strategies for managing stress. Okay, number 1, you have to identify the causes of stress. What is going to cause you stress? What is going to cause you moral stress? Again, by finding out, what drives you ethically, what you're partial towards. That's going to help you understand. And then it is essential to develop healthy ways of coping with stress, and also to really identify when you're not following healthy strategies. When you're adopting unhealthy ways of dealing with this stress, so that you can kind of get yourself back into the more healthy mindset. Ideas or examples of healthy ways to deal with stress, exercise. And I thought it was interesting in one of the links it was talking about, it's not just exercise, you're going to go out and run, but it could be walking, it could be anything that really gets you moving, get your blood pumping. That, for some people, and for me, that's it, going for a run, that is the best way for me to relieve stress. But for other people, it's not. For my son, it happens to be playing the guitar. I also like comedies, being able to laugh. Some people, it's to connect with people. A lot of times when we're stressed, we isolate ourselves even more and we disconnect from people. And that's generally not a healthy way to deal with stress. Set aside time for fun, whatever it happens to be, even if it's a short period of time, something that just removes you from this stressful environment that gives you some enjoyment. Practice time management. And this is very common where, uh, especially working students, you're juggling your job and families and and education. So time management is already a challenge, and we find that we're overwhelmed. And you have a lot of students that'll say they're taking a full load, 5 classes, and they're stressed out. So you really want to practice good time management and say, okay, well, maybe I need to cut back on my classes a little bit. If you're totally overwhelmed, if you're very stressed, and it's not working, then kind of dissect what you're doing, and and analyze it and see if you can practice some better time management skills, uh, and then follow a healthy lifestyle. I thought it was fascinating. One of the articles talked about the benefit of sleeping. And it's interesting, it's sometimes people, if they're really stressed, they don't sleep at all. And if they're really stressed, all they do is sleep. So again, you just want to have that balance where you want to have that sweet spot where you're sleeping, where you're eating healthy and so forth, really helps you to deal with stress. And I wanted to note some of the unhealthy strategies. Drugs and alcohol. Obviously, it's not a long-term solution to dealing with stress. It's not a healthy solution to deal with stress. I, so obviously, you don't want to use drugs and alcohol as your crux to be able to manage stressful situations. Withdrawing from friends and activities, taking stress out on others, and then filling up your day to avoid the problem are just some examples of unhealthy ways to deal with stress.